Okay, so we're back. We did just have a quick look. We have decided to play a couple more, just on the basis that we do have time to do it now. And I'm not sure when we will want to play these because we may need the cash injection. I think once we've got past this initial stumbling of needing monies and things like that, and trying to deal with like when we've got, hopefully by the time we get to the next weekly league period, we can try and fall into a better rhythm where we just play one or two each day, sort of thing, something like that, or maybe two a day, but sometimes it's senior, sometimes it's youth, or whatever the case may be. So I hope that's what I want to try and do. But for now, it was just a bit of a wonky start because we started on the last day of the league period, so we played a whole bunch of matches, and then we're sort of burnt out a bit and need a bit of a rest, and then we're also like trying to get players and deal with injuries and blah blah blah. So, but yeah, hopefully that's the rhythm we can fall into eventually. But for now, I got the time to play two more, so I'll do that. I'll save the 6 so we can spread them out a bit. But we may need the cash injection, and then we will need to play them all straight away. So I'm just looking at it from the perspective of tomorrow. If there's a player we really want, we probably need to finish all these matches to get the cash to buy them. So I don't really want to be in a position where I potentially have to play 8 matches tomorrow, because I'm not quite sure how much time I'll have then. But yeah, it's a weird one because we don't need it anyway, right? And we end up just playing a couple and moving on. But yeah, so on the balance of things, I've got a bit of time now. We'll play 2 more. Right. So I think the question at this point is like, is there anything else that we want to change? Because this was set to attacking winger. So I'm just going to check the player. Oh, wrong player. Just quickly, like in regards to the player himself, if he's pushed up more, it's okay. All right. So I think this is what we finished with. And then on the tactical instructions, we had fast, we had direct, we had interspace, and we're back off. So we were kind of just playing basically like counter-attacking football. We're just drawing him in and launching counter-attacks, but we basically end up with 5, right? And if they only have 4 defenders, we've got a really good overload, but the problem is if they have 5 or 6, then all of a sudden this is bad because they will be able to effectively deal with the attacks and then launch counter attacks, and we'll be really quite exposed. But it feels better than the other plan of having 2 players doing the same thing that are not posing much of a threat either and not helping. The other problem with these 2 AMCs here is not only because they're not on the periphery, they're not creating that direct threat by themselves, they're only creating a threat with link up and interaction with other players. They're also occupying the same space and blah 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 blah, but they're also not contributing defensively, which is worse. Like for example, we'd be better off have had like an extra DMC effectively, because even though they're sort of taking up each other's space a bit in regards to helping attacking build up and whatnot, at least there's one extra body back to defend. So right, we're going to go with this. I think there is a thing about the striker roles here. But I think I'm happy to leave it with just not... at least if it's like this, they'll just... we're not trying to do anything specific, so to speak. Because I think with this tactic, all you're really saying is... all you're really trying to do is search for a good through ball, and to some degree you don't want to influence that with instructions and things, because we don't want to, if we set him to target man, which you could say he's a good target man because he's got good aerial ability or whatever, but then our players will be actively trying to look to get the ball to him. We don't necessarily want that. That's the thing. We just want our players to outlet and pass the ball in whatever the best option happens to be, and not trying to push them towards anything specific. It's also a reason why potentially we don't want him to be creative forward, by the way, because our team will be looking to use him as a conduit to funnel through. So that's also a reason potentially why you just want him to be an attacking midfielder. And in fact, probably just should be. So let's go with that. And let's request. So the only difference in the M we changed there from what we played the second half out in the other match is changing the AMC role to be attacking midfielder instead of creative forward. again, I don't know. Maybe it's not bad that it does conduit through him because he's got two strikers in front of him. So if he gets the ball, he can draw a defender and pass. So it's not necessarily bad, by the way. I might just set it with that because that's on the basis that it seemed to work really well last match. So we'll go with it. But I'll just try and pay attention to see if we have players passing the ball to him when we didn't want that to happen. See how often that actually is a thing. Try and pay attention to that. So if anything, that passes a reason, by the way, to leave it as the creative forward, because we wouldn't want that type of... I mean, maybe, it's hard to say, because if that happened to be accurate and retaining play, our player would have probably got there first. It's like that pass there, even if it slightly spills out of play, it was a good pass sort of thing, the type of pass we want, because our player would get there first if it is accurate, so... Okay, I mean, yeah, not obviously. That was laid off from the AMs from our creative forward. Oh, it was a little bit too fast, but it was close. Okay, take that, I suppose. They got a lot of bodies forward. Alright, we've outlets, so that's good. Same deal, by the way. They don't have any... They're coming back now eventually, but they don't have any defensive-oriented midfielders. So, same deal. They got the 4 defenders, but that's it. So as long as we attack fast enough, we've only got to get through 4. So we have a mismatch. We have basically a 5-on-4. So I think it's the same situation as last match, conceptually, that this should yield some chances for us, even with our injury crisis. Should just generally be able to find an open man, and hopefully we'll end up, scoring some of these chances, basically. We are getting pretty tired, though. This is the thing. But yeah, we'll hopefully get through the rest of this half and at least the start of the second half. Hopefully we do score a goal in the next 30 minutes. Because I've had some decent chance. It feels like it feels coming, basically. Feels like a goal is coming for us. I'm still not entirely sure about the AMC situation, whether he should be a creative forward. So that's just something I'm thinking about actively. Okay, so he scored. So this is the thing, like, part of that tactical instruction meant that our team is looking to get in the ball because he's a creative forward, and well, I'm not really sure how he scores that goal if he doesn't get the ball. So, I'm not saying that means that it's the right role. I'm just saying it's a factor to consider here. I think we'll leave it. Because another thing here is, like, he could potentially be like a support striker and push up even more. Because it's not particularly a problem, because we've got a, necessarily a problem. That he, that we need him hanging back. But I think it's better that he is. Could pause to try to explain that. So basically, like, they don't have any defensive midfielders. So if they did, then maybe it makes more sense for him to be like to push up more as support striker, so that the maybe the defensive midfielder can't easily work out their marking assignments. But because they don't have one, it doesn't really help with that, and arguably it helps the strikers more if he's just back a bit to create effectively, because he's behind a bit. Typically, it creates more triangles, which will help with passing options. So I think support striker isn't the role, but if they did have a DMC, then maybe it would be. But if they did have a DMC, then maybe the whole entire tactic doesn't make any sense anyway. So the whole reason why this thing really works that well at all is just because their team isn't. Their tactic isn't really correctly balanced. It is imbalanced. It's too attacking, basically, and not defensive enough. At this point, we will... they had a good chance before, by the way, so... we are, like, I wouldn't be able to sit here with confidence and say that we definitely should have scored more than one goal so far. And also, I would say that it's totally possible we could have conceded one. At this juncture, like, both of our strikers are tired. So I think you're sort of saying, like, let's just bear in mind what I just said and just look to sort of close the match out, potentially. I guess, or, I guess we can just, I don't know. The thing is, we sort of know this is working okay to some degree, so I think you could argue, for example, we'll put the Carter in the creative forward and Dokken on support striker, just to try to emulate him being up a bit and not these guys getting in each other's space, and sort of trying to keep the tactic intact. I know what I said just now about, like, we need to bear in mind that we're fortunate to be winning, basically. But on the same note, like, going defensive could be a bad idea, just because we don't really have a team that's very good at retaining possession at all at the moment, with all of our MCs injured. So, like, trying to, like, take over forward, add a defender, blah 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 blah. It sounds like a good idea in theory, but the problem is that we will attack less, and right now it just feels like as long as we've got the ball up here and attacking, like, this is where we just want it. If we don't want to concede, that's where we want it. So that's the trade-off, basically. Like, if we made it's hard because they could just, there's no, like, that could have scored, for example. So I just feel like on the balance of things, like, we're winning, and when you're winning, you just want to take the lowest risk. And right now, it kind of feels like, to me, this is the lowest risk. Like, yeah, they might score, but we might score as well at the moment. Kind of feel like if we make that change, then effectively taking off one of these forwards and blah blah blah, bringing on a more defensive player, like we might be inviting a lot more pressure, and I feel like we wouldn't score. So we're basically making a change to a tactical change that, in my mind, is shifting the state of play from maybe they'll score or maybe we'll score to instead be a state of play that's maybe they'll score or that's it. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will, but we probably won't. So it feels like this is the least risky option. Like I said, maybe we'll score. We did. And from this point now, it kind of feels like, well, I still have the attitude at this point. Maybe they'll score. Maybe we'll score. That's kind of my feel at this point still. But I don't have a strong feeling that a likely outcome of this match at this point is that maybe they will score 2 goals. And that's what they need, basically, to get a result. So I'm inclined just to sort of leave it on that basis. That it's the least risky thing we can do. Because with what I'm seeing at the moment, I feel like it's extremely unlikely that they're going to score 2 goals. Pretty much. Now, having said all of that, we may have a hand forced to some degree because of the personnel here. Like, if we want to do that, we have to leave this guy out here. Maybe we just do that. We have to leave this guy out here. Maybe we just do that. Maybe we don't want to push him up. We also have to bear in mind about injuries and stuff. I feel like we probably just sub this guy. This is the only balance, because he's going to hurt a lot if he gets injured for us. So, and he's tired. So we'll just bring on a winger there. Pushes us up a little bit more, makes us a little bit more defensively susceptible, but, you know, I think as far as the concept is concerning, defensively susceptible from the defensive end, but it also encourages us to get the ball up like a little bit more attacking wise, and like I have trying to say, like, we want the ball up here. If we have the ball up here, then they won't score. So yeah, it feels like that's all bad or whatever. This is just brilliant in regards to the match position. We just want this sort of running around in circles, and even if they drift wide and take a bad shot, like, that's just it. This is exactly the type of thing, like, that is what will win the match if that happens. So we're happy for that to happen, basically. Okay, we got a goal as well. So at this point, the match is over. If we had any subs left, we would just be, for sure, just substituting off our most important players for some whatever other subs, but we've already used them all. So I would say, in the end, that was a very comfortable scoreline, but the scoreline and maybe the match stats, I don't know, I'll have a look, but yeah, so it all was like this. You look at this and it all feels super comfortable, but it kind of wasn't. Like, this victory wasn't as straightforward and wasn't as comfortable as what all of this suggests. There was quite a while. It wasn't until sort of getting close to the end where you could say that the match was probably won. So it was pretty late on, really. Now, do we have anybody back from injury yet? Because we kind of need somebody. We need our players back. We've got a Krieg back now. So I kind of feel like he's probably at least on the bench. At the end of the day, though, we're still in a mass. Like, he will start, I think, in the central midfield. I think that's the change here. Like, at the end of the day, like, this guy's pretty bad. He's just not. Yeah, just too weak at too many things, basically. So I think we're just happy to get him out. We'll roll with this tactic again. We'll have him on the bench, though. I'll just check, because we will need to change. Like, if we play against a team that happens to be a bit more defensive, this just ain't going to work at all. So we need to make sure that we got the... we definitely need him. Yeah, that's okay. I think the question is, do we want 2 central midfielders on the bench? So we can... But I think that's okay. At the end of the day, even if that's true, like, it probably... it would have to be pretty bad to want to justify making that change like really, really early. You're probably not even making it till halftime anyway. You're just going to roll with it. So yeah. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think we need a second one, just because we wouldn't do it that early. And so we would sort of wait till halftime and sub one. The reality, like sub him on, and the reality is this guy, you're probably not subbing him off for the other one, probably, because even then he's probably better than the other guy. And if you're doing it, it's because you're chasing a match, so you're probably not going to be wanting to sub him off for somebody just to make sure he doesn't get injured at the end. There's quite a lot of different trains of thought there. So trying to sort of explain that. Hopefully that makes sense. In a roundabout, long-winded way, I'm saying if we're starting with this tactic, even if we're going to convert to one with two MCs, we're unlikely to sub 2 on in a match, so therefore we don't want 2 on the bench. Alright, so the most important thing for us to pay attention to early is when we start that counter-attack, how many players do they have back? That's the first question. And the second question is, straight away you can see these two MCs are coming up to the support. So you can see there's like a massive here, big gap. They are coming back, but as far as when the attack is first launched, we do have a 5-on-4. So it's the same deal as the other matches pretty much. We just need... So yeah, so we can leave it. So we're alright. And then it just becomes a case of like they're dealing with us 5 versus 4 when we do the counter attack. So there is just a big question about, for example, like all the individual matchups basically, with all the, you know, players' strength and how fast they are and good at whatever dribbling and tackling and whatever, like it all. But the fact that we have the numerical supremacy, it kind of means that our players can be a little bit inferior to theirs, and it probably still should be fine. And also, it's probably unlikely that their players are at this level are going to be. I mean, maybe one of the matchups is in their favour, but it's not all of them. Not even it won't be the case. But you know, they could still just score because our defense is very vulnerable with this tactic. Ooh, great chance. Okay. I feel like if we can get the third goal, that the match is effectively over. So once we grab that, we can start just sort of thinking on that basis. I.e. start thinking about subs and bringing squad players on and whatnot. Oh, great chance. that was like an example there of the. I mean, I know it's not the normal main tactic, but it is an example of where the ball during an attack gets quickly laid back to the deep lying playmaker, our DMC guy. And he sort of just he provides like a, and I think from that position, yeah, just an example of that, how just that having that role, they will sort of funnel through there as they build up this hype, but he can also be involved. Even though our attack was quite advanced and quite high up, he still got involved in it. Okay. So we're firmly in control here. I think this is something that our main tactic can convert to as well. So I think we probably got a little bit lucky, maybe, in regards to these teams not having a DMC, because I just don't think this will work very well to have one. But at the end of the day, plenty of teams won't have one. And this is definitely something that we can tactically switch to during matches without much trouble, right? Like, we're effectively just doing a sub for one of our MCs for probably our attacking midfielder one for an extra striker. So this is a type of change that we could make easily, a tactical change that we could make easily during matches as well. So this could be an extra weapon for us to for matches, where we need a goal or whatever, and we're playing against a team that only has basically 4, I suppose, or less, 3 or 4 players that are defending. That this could be a thing, an option for us. So we learned a couple things today actually. So one, we learned to help defend, to help close out matches. We can at the moment sub our left midfielder on for a left back, and we also learned now we have a way when we an option to get a goal if we need one as well, and possibly even an option to help defend matches, as like close a match out like this as well. In the case we're under a lot of pressure, could be a way to alleviate that pressure. They're a very top-heavy team that can be. So I think at the moment this left midfielder he's going to be injured anyway, and feel like this match is won. So I feel like it's not a priority to get that player off at this point. We're going to get this striker off. We'll just do that one in isolation for the time being. And change and just leave the formation intact. I mean, at the end of the day, like we're quite in control here, but there still is enough time that they could score 2 for sure. And the nature of this whole thing tactically is that we are always vulnerable to conceding, pretty much. So, but as with all these things, with every minute that passes and they haven't scored, like, our chances of winning just increases a lot. I'm going to stop it. I'd say at this point, probably just sub this player off as well. And then we'll probably sub off at MC, because it's the one that's going to... It's the one we need to protect. Would have been good to have got that 3rd goal, because I feel like we will definitely win when we get that, but still at the moment I'm not convinced that this is just completely over and we can just take off all of our best players and just sit here expecting to win. Like, that could have just been a goal, like, easily. And then at that point, it's like back into that. If you're only winning by 1, then you could definitely not win. So, and we have to bear in mind they've got a corner here. So I think we just need to let it play out, because this guy is very good at defending corners. I'm not sure if he's back or not. I think he is, because I don't think he's got blonde hair. Ooh, okay. So a bit lucky to get away with that. I mean, a little bit. I don't want to overstate it here. Like, we definitely have been, on the most parts, quite in control. Like, had this match a firm grasp on it. So, alright. So at this point, we're going to sub him off. He will come in, and then I guess we'll leave these guys on their sides. Support striker and create a forward. I'll just pause it again straight away because I feel like by the time this pause comes up, hopefully we should be pretty close to having won it. And also this guy's now tired, so he's not that much, like, he's still better probably tired than the other MC, but not massively so at this point. So we'll just bring him on because we just don't want that MC to be injured. It's going to really potentially, if he just happens to get injured, it potentially costs us a couple more results in the next two matches. So that's just not worth it. I feel like this match we, is probably just won. So okay. Oh, great chance. Sort of could see from all of the angles and everything opening up that we had a chance there. Another good chance. They didn't really create much against us this game, I gotta say. There was one situation where it's like they easily just could have scored, but outside of that, they didn't really create a lot. Yeah. Not good, but you're okay with that when you're winning. So I think that's about game. So yeah, fairly comfortable, that one, I have to say. Fairly comfortable, but cool. Alright, well, we will leave it here for now. Unfortunately, our left midfielder is now injured again. So I think at this point we probably do want to check the scouting pool. Unfortunately, like I'm saying, like if we need the money to buy him, which we probably do, because we're going to cost money if we need. But anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see what players come up and whatnot. So, yep. Alright, thanks, and we'll catch you in the next one.